Okay. Good morning, all of you. So this is our lecture number 3, in which we are going to discuss what? Biodiversity and conservation. Okay. So first of all is what? Keystone species. Keystone species. What? Okay. These terms are very much important for the conservation. There are different sort of species. For example, keystone species, foundational species, flagship species, and umbrella species. So what is keystone? Keystone species are defined as a species that have a massive impact on the ecosystem to the extent that without their presence, the ecosystem would be dramatically different. So when you talk about the conservation, when you talk about the proper ecosystem, they have been maintained by these keystone species. For example, when you talk about like grassland system, grassland. So they are the herbivorous animals. They are what? Your keystone species. They are responsible for what? Maintaining those grasses. Is it? For example, here you can see. Okay, for example, if you talk about like in Africa, savanna such as Serengeti plains, PPT में लिया आप लोगों ने? Okay, for example, if you're talking about keystone species, okay, in Africa savanna such as Serengeti plains in Tanzania, elephants are keystone species. Elephants eat shrubs, small trees such as acacia that grows on the savanna. It's a basically grassland. So if you must be knowing about the acacia tree. देखा आप लोगों ने acacia tree? So when you talk about the grasslands, so grassland means for particularly for grasses, small herbs. But when the shrubs and these trees will grow over there, that means what? वो grassland से move हो जाएगा. That particular ecosystem, it will be what? Shifted. So for the purpose of maintaining those grasslands, this elephant is responsible. If a acacia tree grows to a height of a meter or more, it will be what? Destroyed by the elephant. And because of this elephant is what? It's a keystone species. Okay. So mark the words. The preservation and restoration of keystone species is essential for maintaining or re-establishing the historic structure and function of the ecosystem they inhabit. They are not always the largest or most abundant species. It is not necessary that they will be the largest or the most abundant one. Their responsibility is to particularly maintain the ecosystem. For example, we have discussed about the savanna. The ecosystem is maintained by elephants. Is it okay? Now, next is your what? Foundation species. So generally, foundation means what? Foundation species. So foundation species means what? They are talking to primary producers. They mostly they will be your primary producers. So foundation species. Foundation means what? Foundation species means what? They are the mostly primary producers. Primary producers mostly. Okay, foundation. So foundation species play a major role in creating and maintaining a habitat. Corals are the key example of foundation. Corals, kelps, they are the what? Foundation species. Coral reef is one of the most vibrant, biologically diverse ecosystem on the planet. You must be knowing, we have discussed when we talk about the biodiversity on the terrestrial, we are having strongest biodiversity at tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest, for example, Amazon rainforest. Okay. Similarly, when you talk about in the marine ecosystem, the highest biodiversity is for your coral reefs. Okay. Highest in marine ecosystem. Okay. It's your biodiversity coral reefs. Then mangroves or estuaries. Then kelp forest. Is it okay? Mangroves or estuaries. Then your kelp forest. Okay. So these coral reefs are one of the most vibrant and biologically diverse ecosystem on the planet. Microscopic planktons as well as crustaceans, mollusks, sponge, fish, marine reptiles and mammals are all the part of the healthy coral reef ecosystem. Okay, so coral reef ecosystem is what? It's a foundation species. Okay, now there are certain examples of foundation species. For example, coral reefs we have discussed, mangroves. Okay, we have discussed about the biodiversity. For example, coral reefs is having what? Greatest biodiversity. That means what? In that particular coral reef, for example, we have discussed about the tropical rainforest. The strongest biodiversity. That means what? Lots of insects, animals, mammals, they are living over there. Similarly, lots of different species of the fishes, they are living in the coral system itself. Similarly, the next is what? Your mangroves. Okay, so mangroves is what? It's a foundation species. Foundation species means what? Because inside the mangroves, lots of species it will be residing over there. Okay, na? Mangroves. Kelp forest we have discussed. It is having the what? Greater biodiversity in the marine ecosystem. Third one, forms the dense underwater forest serving as the physical structure of the marine organism. Lots of different marine organisms, they will be surviving and thriving over there. Then is your trees, redwoods, sea grasses form the large underwater meadows stabilizing sediments and providing habitat. So sea grasses is the what? Foundation. Okay. Prairie dogs create habitat by building burrows that enhance soil nutrient cycling and provide shelter to the other. When you talk about the prairie, you must have studied your prairie's belt that is found in USA. Okay. Next is what? Indicator species. Indicator species means what? It indicates the health of the ecosystem, whether the ecosystem is healthy or okay, or it is what? Polluted. It indicates the health of the ecosystem. Okay. So, an indicator species are almost immediately affected by the changes to the ecosystem. That means what? They are very much sensitive to the ecosystem. If there is certain changes, that changes it will be affected by them, and give early warning that the habitat is suffering. For example, lichen, a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungi. Lichens are sensitive to the atmospheric pollution such as nitrogen because they receive all the nutrients and water from the wet and dry atmospheric deposition. Nitrogen deposition can increase the load of the nutrients. Too much nitrogen can harm and kill the algae. Chlorophyll, which is used to produce sugars, feeding it on the fungi itself. Okay, so that means what? यहाँ पे क्या होगा? Lichen is what? It's an indicator species. Next is what? Flexive species. So, a flexive species acts as a symbol for the environmental habitat movement companion issue. They can be the mascot of the entire ecosystem. Okay, when you suppose, for example, if you talk about like cheetah reintroduction programs. Okay, so where the cheetahs they are being reintroduced? Kunhu National Park in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, now when you talk about the cheetah, they are the fastest animal on the earth surface. That means what? They are famous for their running speeds, but remember one thing, they can hardly run for 1 minute. After that, they will stop. Okay, now, but for 1 minute, they can chase anything. Now, if they are meant for running, obviously what type of forest they require? Deciduous forest. What? Deciduous forest. If it is evergreen forest, do you think the cheetah can live over there? Evergreen forest means what? There it is very difficult to walk. You have to clear the grasses and all those things. ठीक है ना, बहुत सारी चीजें जो रहती है. So obviously it will be found in the tropical deciduous forest. For example, if you want to protect the tropical deciduous forest, okay, so that means what? I will start the protection of what? Cheetah. I will thinking of protection of cheetah. Obviously, if I want to protect the cheetah, I want to protect what? Automatically, this tropical deciduous forest, it will get protected. So these are the flagship species: tiger, cheetah. They are your flagship species. If you give protection to them, if you start protecting those species, ultimately the complete ecosystem will get protected. Is it okay? So, and because of that, they can be the mascot of the entire ecosystem. They are often charismatic, large and very popular, appeal to the appearance. For example, giant panda. Panda is a global symbol for the endangered species and the value of the captive breeding. Example of this, these are the flagship species. Okay. Now, we will be talking about the national park and wildlife sanctuary. Is it? This national park, wildlife sanctuary, and also they are being developed under what? Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Already we have discussed about the biosphere reserve. When we have discussed about the biosphere reserve, okay, man, in the biosphere reserve, there we have discussed the biosphere reserve. There we have seen that when you talk about the biosphere reserve, they are being delineated into your 3 zones. First is your what? Core zone. Second is your what? Buffer, and last is your. Okay, so we have seen that when you talk about the core zone means what? It is human activities should not be permitted. Any sort of development of safaris, it will be taking place in the what? Buffer zone. So that's what you can visualize the core zone. In the core zone, we will have what? It's a habitat for your different animals. Okay, when you talk about the transition zones, so certain form of activities like grazing, agriculture, silviculture, it will be permitted over there. Similarly, we have discussed that when you talk about the highest protection is for your national park. Because the national park, the complete national park, they are being treated as the core element itself. Okay. When you talk about the wildlife sanctuary itself, again in the wildlife sanctuary, it has been 3 delineated zones. That is your core, buffer, transition itself. So we will discuss. So national park and wildlife sanctuary, they are being developed within what? Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So this national park, it has been created. No need to remember the section. Okay, just you have to know the essence of the topic. What is the difference and what sort of activity it is being permitted. Okay. So under section 35, this national park is being created, and under section 26A, this wildlife sanctuary is being created. Now, primary objective of this national park is what? To protect the entire ecosystem. In that particular ecosystem, what we have? Fauna, flora, geomorphology, and historical object. Each and everything that is into the national park, it will be protected. We have discussed that when you talk about the national park, the complete national park, it is treated as a core itself. So each and everything, it will be what? Protected. But when you move to your wildlife, to protect a particular species or group of species, we have a what? Wildlife sanctuary. Is it okay? Now, declaration power. If the questions become very much complicated, okay, declared by the state government via notification, central government can declare if the land is leased or transferred. Here also, declared by the state government via notification in areas of ecological significance. Now, when you talk about the boundaries, for example, we have discussed that national park, it has been completely treated as a core. So, what is the status? Highly rigid in nature. That means what? Boundaries are clearly defined by the law at the time of notification. It is highly rigid in nature. But here, flexible. Boundaries may be loose initially but fixed during the final notification. Alteration of boundary. If you want to change the boundaries, then requires a resolution passed by the state legislature plus recommendation of the National Board of Wildlife. Okay, here requires only recommendation of the National Board of Wildlife. No legislative resolution is mandatory. But here what? resolution passed by the state legislature is being required. So here what, it's very difficult to change the boundary. Okay, because ultimately what, if you want to change the boundary of the national park in the state legislative assembly, what resolution is to be passed. Okay, and before it has to be recommended by the National Board of Wildlife. But here only recommendation from the National Board of Wildlife is required. Okay, upgradability, it is an apex status. National park के बाद कुछ नहीं है, we do not have anything. Wildlife sanctuary, it can be converted into national park, but we do not have any sort of provision that national park, it will be what, degraded into your, okay. So a national park cannot be downgraded to a sanctuary. This is okay, but when you talk about wildlife sanctuary, depending upon the flora, fauna, species over there, and what, how much ecologically sensitive it is, there is a strong possibility that it can get converted into your national park. But national park, highest level, apex protected area, now it cannot be downgraded to your wildlife sanctuary. ठीक है? Now, national park, wildlife sanctuary. For example, we have discussed national park. It is what, it will be treated as a core itself. Core itself, inviolable core, single zone focus. The complete national park, it will be treated more or less like a core itself. Most national park are managed as a single core where the entire notified area is protected. There is no internal buffer. That means what? For example, we have discussed the biosphere. There we have the three different delineated zones. We have the delineated zones in the wildlife sanctuary itself, but we have discussed that it's an apex protected body. The highest level of protection is being provided over there, and it's not for the protection of only the species over there. It's for the protection of flora and fauna. And because of this complete, it will be treated as a what? Core itself. ठीक है ना? Okay, because the legal notification itself mandates the undisturbed ecosystem. Clear? Okay, next is what? Core buffer transition model. Sanctuaries often have a tied internal structure. The central part is core, buffer, and this is what, transition zones. Okay, now when we are discussing about the different sort of Forest Conservation Act, the latest what, amendment in 2005, apart from that, the latest intervention of the Supreme Court in 2026 itself, where we have the revised guidelines that the degraded land, it can be restored by the private entities, NGOs, and those things, it will be considered as what, forestry activity, and they do not have to pay NPV, NPA, and apart from that, do not have to go for the compensatory afforestation. Okay, so this is what, intervention by the Supreme Court, and there we have also what, inculcated the significance of Forest Right Act. Forest Right Act. Now think of it. Just try to think. We have discussed that when we talk about the national park, the complete national park, it is being treated as a core. Is it? That means what? No sort of human activities, it is being promoted over there. Clear है ना? So वहाँ पे क्या होगा? What about the Forest Right Act? Just think of it. And we have discussed that when we talk about the wildlife sanctuary, it is being delineated into core, buffer, and the transitions. That means what? In the transitions zone, Forest Right Act, when we talk about the Forest Right Act, the rights of the indigenous peoples, it can be given towards the transition zone itself. Core में नहीं, but what, national park? ठीक है ना? So here you can see settlement of right. Under section 35, all rights grazing residency must be completely extinguished or relocated. The area must be inviolable in nature. Okay, because it is being completely, when you talk about Forest Right Acts, this right do not act into the core of biosphere, into the core of the wildlife sanctuary. But when you talk about this national park, वो complete क्या? It's a complete core. So वहाँ पे this right is it will automatically extinguish. But as per the Forest Right Act, what we have seen, such type of right, they cannot be snatched away from this tribal people. That means what? It has to be given to in some other places. It has to be relocated. It cannot be permitted in your national park. Okay. Continuance of right. Under section 24, the district collector may allow the certain rights to continue if they do not harm wildlife. These rights are usually exist in the buffer and peripheral zone. They will not exist in the core of the biosphere. They won't exist in the core of the wildlife sanctuary. Okay. Okay. Now, eco-sensitive zone, mandatory external cushion, a 1 kilometer zone outside the boundary is legally required to act as a shock absorber for the pristine ecosystem. For example, we have discussed when we talk about the wildlife sanctuary, there we have been having core zone, buffer and transition zones are there. Similarly, when we talk about this national park, it has been completely treated as a core, looking at the protection. That means what? Even the peripheral part, they need protections. And because of that, Supreme Court said that after national park boundary, approximately 1 kilometer, it will be considered as a what? Eco-sensitive zones for the protection of the pristine ecosystem. Okay? Ownership, 100% government owned. The land must be under the absolute control of the state forest department. Mixed ownership can include private and community land because why it's over here? Because here Forest Right Act 2006 it is applicable over there. The indigenous rights of the tribal people, it has to be given, but obviously what? Into the buffer and transition zone. ठीक है ना? So this is about a national park and wildlife sanctuary. देखिए earlier when we talk about the UPSC, they were asking the simple questions. Already the simple questions were being asked. Now if it is being asked, they will be asking of the question. It will be integrated one: Forest Right Act, Forest Conservation Act, and the latest guidelines. Okay. Now, see. So national park in news, lots of national parks are there, wildlife sanctuaries are there. So we will be talking only those that are into the news. Rest you can revise it by yourself. If you do not have the notes, just let me know. I'm having a PDF. I will just provide it to you. All the national parks, wildlife sanctuary, it's there into the PDF. Okay, if it will take around 3 to 4 hours. That is why we will be discussing the most important one that is there into the news. Clear? For example, here you can see this national park in news, the newest national park and designations. For example, Simlipal National Park, Odisha, officially declared as 107th national park. That means what? It's a what? 107th national park. Okay. After that, Sikna Jaulo National Park, Assam. And apart from that, we have Madhav National Park, Madhya Pradesh declares India 58 Tiger Reserve, and the 9th in Madhya Pradesh, 9th national park in Madhya Pradesh, and apart from that, this is your 58 Tiger Reserve. So this national park seems to be important. We'll discuss. Now, protected area in news. For example, here you can see Valleys of Flower National Park, Uttarakhand, Baneghatta National Park, Karnataka, Kunu National Park, Madhya Pradesh. Because what? We are trying to relocate the cheetah from Botswana. Or Dudhwa National Park, Uttar Pradesh, Namdapha National Park, Arunachal Pradesh, recorded the first sighting of a male elephant 12 years in February 2025. Because of this, it is into the news. And here you can see Iraviculam National Park, Kerala, India's #1 national park in the management effective evaluation 2020-25 with a score of 92.97, jointly by Dichigam National Park. We have Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, we have Kaziranga National Park. So these national parks are there into the news. Okay. Here, this thing here you can see that these two are the important one. Okay. Write it down in the important section. These two. Okay. Please do let me know after the classes if you are having the notes or not. If you do not have the notes, do just let me know. I will provide it. Taken. So, for example, the first is your what? Simlipal Tiger Reserve. Okay. National Park. Sorry. It's also a tiger reserve. Named after Simul, it's a what? Seal Sanctuary, it's a what? Biosphere reserve. And also a part of the Mayurbhanj Elephant Reserve itself. situated in the Deccan Peninsular Biogeographic Zone, and it's a part of your Eastern Ghat. It's a part of your Eastern Ghat. It is also home of the various tribes including Kolha, Santhal, Bhumija, Bhatudi, Gondas, Khadi, Mankadi, and Sahara. Okay, when you talk about the vegetations over there, what are the vegetations? The forests are predominantly moist mixed deciduous forest. It's a what? Moist mixed deciduous forest with tropical semi-evergreen forest in areas with suitable microclimate conditions. But when you talk about the most dominant one is what? Deciduous forest, and most dominant tree is what? It's your sal, the dominant tree species. Okay. Next is your what? It's your Sikna Jwala National Park. See, when earlier when you used to ask these questions, generally from 2014 to 2018, it is being said that if there is, we have to remember the national park of the northeast region. Okay, so if there is something into the news, it becomes, it's become highly probable questions. Okay, but now it's not like that. So here you can see, this is what? Sikna Jolua National Park, known for the habitat of what? Golden langur. Okay, it also houses the Royal Bengal tiger and the great one-horned rhino. Unique features, the park is recognized for hosting over 460 species of butterflies. This is important. Golden langur plus this 460 different species of butterfly. Okay. Now covering this park acts as a vital ecological bridge connecting Raimona and Manas National Park. Here you can see that this is your what? This is your Raimona National Park and this is your Manas National Park. These two parks, they are being connected with the help of this Sikna Jwala National Park. Okay, so it's a what? It is acting as an ecological bridge in between these two parks, that is your Raimona National Park and Manas National Park. Okay, na? So this is also very much important. Okay, and it belongs from the northeast, so not so important. This topic is not so important, but yes, the questions can be asked. Okay. You can see that there are certain other national parks, for example, Kaziranga National Park, Deging Patkai National Park, Dibru Soika National Park, Nameri National Park, and Manas National Park, Sikha National Park, and Ramuna National Parks, Orang National Parks. Just go through this. If you want the notes, just let me know. Okay. The other is what? Valley of Flowers National Park. It's in Uttarakhand. So it is a high altitude Himalayan valley in the transition zone between Jaskar and Great Himalaya. It is known for its meadows of endemic alpine flower, and because of this, the name is your Valley of Flowers National Park. Both the Valley of Flowers National Park and the Nanda Devi National Park forms a core area of Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. Okay, what is the vegetation over there? Alpine vegetation. Okay. See here the different national parks are there. You can go through it. Okay. Now this is your Benaghatta National Park. It's in Karnataka. Okay. Kunhu National Park. This is also very much important. Just write down in your notes. Important. Okay, so this is your what? Kunhu National Park. So it is discussed that this is for your what? This Kunhu National Park is for your what? Reintroduction of cheetah. Okay. Okay. So what type of vegetation it will be? Your tropical dry deciduous. Okay. So the park boasts diverse vegetation including tropical dry deciduous forest, savanna grasslands, and riverine forest. A total of around 20 cheetahs were introduced in the Kunhu National Park, 8 from the Namibia in September, followed by 20 more from South Africa in February, and it also why we are planning it to, again we have to bring what? Cheetah from Botswana itself. This is Project Cheetah Phase 2, Translocation and Success. India formally announced translocation of 8 cheetah from Botswana. A status world fastest mammal declared extinct in India in 1950. Core site Kunnu National Park. Primary objective to establish breeding cheetah populations in the safe habitat across its historical range. To use cheetah as a charismatic flagship. So cheetah is what? It's a flagship species. We have discussed when suppose this flagship species is what it is going to completely what conserve your ecosystem, tropical deciduous forest. An umbrella species. Umbrella species means what? Umbrella species means what? Flagship species and umbrella species. Umbrella species means what? If this particular species is being protected, all the different species living in that particular ecosystem, it will also get indirectly protected. Umbrella species to garner resources for restoring open forest and savanna, to use the ensuing opportunity for eco development and ecotourism. Now Namdapha National Park, it's in what? Arunachal Pradesh. So located between it's located between Mismi Hills and the Patkai Range. Now Dinghang River flows over. The climate of this area varies from tropical, subtropical, temperate and Arctic. Namdapha flying squirrel. It's what? Endemic over there. It's what? Critically endangered. Endemic, critically endangered. It's a what? Flying squirrel. Was first collected in the park and described. It is the largest protected area in the Eastern Himalaya biodiversity hotspot. Only park in the world to have the 4 feline species of the big cat, namely tiger, leopard, snow leopard, and clouded leopard. All the different. Only this is the first. Only this is the place in the world where you get all four type of feline species. Holuk gibbons, the only ape species found in India, is in this particular national park, Namdapha National Park. Okay. So कायबुल लामजाओ नेशनल पार्क वो क्या है बताइए मुझे, वेयर इट इज, what is famous about this park? Dancing. Okay, what more about it? Where it dances? It's floating. It's a what? Floating national park. Okay, it's a what? So the only floating national park in the world, and it's integral of what? Loktak National Park. This is what? Fumdi. This is what? Fumdi. Okay, so characterized by the floating decomposed plant material located as Fumdi. Flagship species of the park is what? Sangai deer. The distinct nature of this park is that it is too deep to be marsh and too shallow to be lake. It's called what? Floating park. Floating national park. Okay. Now, Iravukulam National Park. So where it is? So it is famous for. Okay, it's the land of Nilakurinji. It's a what? It will take around 12 years. Our flowering will take place after every 12 years. Okay, the last time it was around, the last flowering, if I remember, it was around 2018. Just check it, 2018, I think. So again, it will boom at 2030. Check the last flowering of this on the net itself. Nilakurinji, please check it. I think 2018. Just check it once. Huh? Because that was my last attempt, so I can remember it. Okay. So what? 2018. So it will grow after in 2030. Okay. The land of Nilakurinji, 12 years bloom. Palian tribes collect the age from it. Okay. The highest peak of South India, the Anamudis, is located over, and Nilgiri Thar, it's found over there. Okay. Now, this is not so important. Salkhan Fossil Park, it's in Uttar Pradesh. Here you can see that this picture is not visible. Okay, the Salkhan Fossils Park, officially Sonbhadra Fossil Park, is located in the Sonbhadra district of Uttar Pradesh, specifically near Salkhan village. Okay, situated within the Kaimur range and adjacent. Here, what stones are being found? In that particular stones, we have what recovered some of the fossils belonging to pre-Cambrian era. In these stones, these are the stones. These are what? Stones. In these rocks, basically, in these rocks, fossils have been found. And these fossils, when you talk about the dated, it belongs to your pre-Cambrian era. Pre-Cambrian era. Just write it down. This thing is missing. I think in the beginning side it is mentioned over there. Beginning of the notes. It belongs to what? Pre-Cambrian era. Okay. Okay. Now what? Sites. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna. Suppose if we talk about the translocations of endangered species, what? This particular organization will come into picture. Okay. Site. The Site Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild is a legally binding 1975 international agreement between 184 countries, including United Nations Environmental Program, designed to ensure that the trade in wild animals and plants does not threaten their survival. It regulates international trade for over 38,000 species via permitting system for export. Permission it has to be taken if you want to go for the export, import and re-export. Okay, now latest Conference of Party 2020 for Site. What is the name of this? Samarkand 2025. Okay. What was the theme? Bridging nature and people. Okay. Significance: first Site Conference of Party held in Central Asia marked the 150th anniversary of the convention. Purpose: to protect the biodiversity, obviously to protect the biodiversity by monitoring, regulating and banning the international commercial trade of endangered species. Okay. Now, a structure operates through the Conference of Party that meets every 2 to 3 years with the Secretariat managed by United Nations Environmental Program. Now we have 3 appendices. Species are listed based on the required level of protection. First one is what? Appendix 1. Species threatened with extinction, international trade is generally prohibited. What? It is generally prohibited. If there are certain species, if it is being placed into Appendix 1, international trade is what? Prohibited. Appendix 2, species not currently threatened but may become unless the trade is strictly regulated. So there are certain species. Okay. So for that, what? International trade, it has to be regulated. If it is not being regulated, what will happen? They will become extinct. Appendix 3, species for which a country requests international cooperation to control trade. Okay. Examples: covers animals like whales, elephant, rhinos, tigers alongside the plants such as cacti and orchids. No. Okay. This is important. So, sites coupled with rate centers. Write it down. Question: sites plus rate centers. Okay. Actually, what happens when we go through the particular topic itself? UPSC what? It's a all-rounder. That means what? He will ask the integrated questions. वो कभी भी, if you go to the site, do you think at this level it is going to ask the question from the site itself? वो कभी नहीं होगा. Okay, so here you can see, and that is the main problem with the magazines basically. In 2023 to 2025, India achieved major sites compliance updated for rate centers moving to category 1, which lifted long-standing trade restrictions. Amendment to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 allowed for the regulated export of the cultivated rather than the wild rate center with a specific annual quotas granted to the states like Gujarat and Karnataka. Okay, so here you can see that earlier we have a totally what? This rate centers export, it was being completely banned. That cannot be exported. It will be what? Cultivated one. That the area is specifically designated by the state government for the cultivations of rate center. If the rate centers grows over there, now under site it can be what? Exported. ठीक है ना? Okay. Export Policy Amendment 2003 to 2005. The Director General of Foreign Trade amended the export policy to allow the export of cultivated red sender. Remember, cultivated, we are not talking about the wild. पुष्पा मूवी में क्या था? Wild, है ना? A 2025 notification sets specific quotas for Tamil Nadu. Obviously, we have, for example, we have Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. They have specific quotas, something around 1250 millitons or something like that. Only that amount it can be cultivated. It's not like that. On the paper, it is like that only. Okay, rest we do not know. Okay? Wild versus cultivated rules. While the export of wild sources red centers remains under a zero quota. Zero quota means what? For example, presently we have around 1250 quotas, millitons. There we have zero quota. Zero quota means what? It's wild red centers, it cannot be exported. It is not being permitted by site. Legal cultivated, legal one. It's not like that you grow and you ask the you will ask the government, sir, can I export it? ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. ठीक है? You have to take the tenders. Legal cultivated timber from the private land can be exported with a proper certifications. The 2022 amendment to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 incorporated site provision directly to Indian law, moving the species to Schedule 4. We just remember it. We have discussed about the Wildlife Protection Act earlier. Where we are having 6 schedule, but presently we have almost schedule 4 schedule, and we have added this red cinder in the Schedule 4. There we have discussed that it is correlated to what? Site itself. That means what this Schedule 4 it is related to what? International trade itself. ठीक है? Okay. So go through this question. Which one? Question 1. Okay. With reference to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna, consider the following statement. CITE is an international agreement to which states and regional economic integration organizations adhere voluntarily. Although CITE is legally binding to the parties, it does not take the place of a national law. The review of significant trade is a corrective mechanism triggered when there is a concern that the Appendix 1 species are being traded at unsustainable level. India's Category 1 status on the CITE national legislation program implies that domestic laws fully meet the requirement of the CITE implementation. क्या होगा आंसर इसका? Okay, so 4 is correct. We have just now discussed the cases of red cinder. The review of significant trade is a corrective mechanism triggered when there is a concern that Appendix 1 species are being traded at unsustainable level. This is correct. Check it once. Go through the notes. Check the notes once. Yes, Appendix 1 trades are strictly prohibited. Check it once. Species threatened with extinction, international trade is generally prohibited. Generally prohibited. And when you talk about the Appendix 2, then international trade is allowed at Appendix 2 itself, but at sustainable level. Go to the statement. Species not currently threatened but may become so unless the trade is strictly regulated. That means what? When the trade is carried out at sustainable level. तो ये क्या होगा? Review of significant trade. For example, just correlate this statement. Red senders. Only what? It is being allowed for your cultivated red senders. So it cultivated red senders. ठीक है ना? So because of this statement is a corrective measure triggered when there are concern that Appendix 1 species are being traded at unsustainable level. This will come into picture when it will be regulated. देखिए regulated means what? We will control it. For example, rate senders, we have the limit set. For example, we have seen that limit for Tamil Nadu is how much? 900 million tons. We have, मतलब उसके बाद तमिलनाडु कर सकता है? नहीं कर सकता है. That okay. So this will be applicable for your appendix 2. देखिए, for example, if we talk about the other sort of examinations, there will always be what? There is a gap between the two statement. Okay, for example, you go to the other sort BPSC, UPPCS, but when you go to the UPSC statement, it will be like this, and that is why it becomes very much difficult. It is prohibited. So where, if it is being prohibited, how comes regulations come into picture? तो वही ना अपेंडिक्स 2 के बारे में ही बात कर रहे हैं ना, जब हम बता रहे हैं कि हम अगर ट्रेड कर रहे हैं और ट्रेड करते समय जो है अगर अनसस्टेनेबल लेवल पे ट्रेड कर रहे हैं तो क्या होगा? दिस विल कम टू पिक्चर. अपेंडिक्स में प्रोहिबिटेड है, जनरली प्रोहिबिटेड. अब जनरली प्रोहिबिटेड देखिए, स्ट्रिक्टली तो इफ सपोज फॉर एग्जांपल इफ देयर इज अ सर्टेन इमरजेंसी है ना, इकोलॉजिकल स्पीसीज की इमरजेंसी है, देन इट विल बी अलाउड. फॉर एग्जांपल चीता रीइंट्रोडक्शन प्रोग्राम है ना, इट इज बीइंग अलाउड. लेकिन अब जैसे रेट सेंडर्स है तो वहां पर ट्रेड हो रहा है फॉर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज, but we have seen that we have certain limitations. For example, if you do not know the data, but it is something around 1250 million tons or something like that, highest for the Tamil Nadu. So beyond it, if you go, what will happen? How this is being granted? जितना cultivation होता है, how much it is being harvested, कितना cut किया जा सकता है, how much plantations are being carried out, it depends upon that itself. ठीक है? Although it is legally binding on the party, it does not make the place of the national law. This is also true, and this is also true. So what will be the answer? 1, 2, and 4. C. Okay. Statement 3 is what? Incorrect. Clear? Which one? Okay, see, sometimes remember one thing, I frame the questions, or see, everything it is not mentioned in your notes. Everything it is not mentioned in your notes. To give you the complete knowledge that something when it is not being mentioned, or when I have to convey the significance, when I have to convey the interconnectivity, that statement it will be included in your question itself. Okay, so यहाँ देखेंगे, although the site is legally binding on the party, it does not take the place of a national law. If it's not a national law, it is not a national. If it is not a national law, CITES is an international agreement to which states and regional economic integration organization added voluntary. Okay, this to a statement. Remember, if the questions become very much difficult, it is generalized or not. If you go through certain current affairs magazines or certain current affairs, do you think if you go through the current affairs magazines, all sort of questions are being solved? No, it is very difficult to include each and everything. And sometimes if I include also, it won't be remembered by you. But if it is being included in the question, if you are solving it, you will remember it. Okay. Question number 2, solve it. Is it? So, consider the following statement regarding the regulatory framework of the rent centers in India. The Wildlife Protection Act 2002 moved the rent centers from Schedule 2 to Schedule 4. We have seen, so that it can be controlled by the sites. The 2025 DGFT notifications allows for the export of both white source. This is what this is not allowed. Zero quota. We have what? Zero quota. Zero quota. And artificially propagated red center within a, yes, this is within a specific quota. We have a specific quota for it. We have discussed. That means what? Why specific quota? Because we have seen that when rates, it is being placed in what? Appendix 2. That means what? It is being regulated. Regulated means what? We have a specific quota for each state. So this statement is incorrect. Under the current category 1 compliance, India must still obtain a non-detriment findings from the scientific authority. It's true. Recent quotas of the rate centered export have been granted in states including Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Karnataka. This is also true. So 3, 2 is mistake. Answer will be what? B, 1, 3, and 4. Okay. Completed. Only 2 questions we have now. Yes. The next is your what? So Supreme Court issued directions for the protection of tiger reserves to address increasing human-wildlife conflict. We have seen that Supreme Court intervened and it says that when somebody dies because of what human-wildlife conflict, it will be considered as what? National disaster. It will be considered as a disaster itself, and the ex gratia they will be given 10 lakh rupees. Okay. So here you can see that what are the recommendations. First is your conflicts due to habitat degradation, unregulated tourism, and corridor fragmentation. So because of that, no tiger safaris. Banned in the core areas or designated corridor, permitted only in the buffer zone on non-forest land. Night tourism banned in the core critical tiger habitat, eco-sensitive zones. Only reserve must notify eco-sensitive zone under Environmental Protection Act 1986. Okay, a state must plan tiger conservation plans within timeless. Total reserve 58 with the most latest one, Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve and Ratapani Wildlife Sanctuary in MP. Prohibited activities, commercial minings, polluting industries, major hydro project, exotic species reintroductions, low flying aircraft or commercial firewood extraction bed in buffer and fringe zones. So you have to remember it from the purpose of prelims. In the core, everything is completely banned. We have discussed your buffer and transition zone. So in the buffer zone, this type of activities they are in completely banned. Natural disaster status for human wildlife conflict to ensure rapid relief. Uniform ex gratia of 10 lakh for human death due to conflict. Okay. Now, how much tiger we have presently in 2023? How much we have? 9682. So we have the project Wildlife Protection Act. From Wildlife Protection Act, what we have? Project Tiger Laws in 1973, 2006. Amendment in the Wildlife Protection Act resulting in the establishment of National Tiger Conservation Authority and the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. In 2010, the Global Tiger Reserve Day celebrated international effort for tiger conservation. Maximum tiger reserves are located in Madhya Pradesh. In your Madhya Pradesh. Okay. So a bit we'll discuss about your tiger reserves. Okay. We have discussed biosphere. We have discussed national park. We have discussed wildlife sanctuary. I have said that each and every fundamental concept it will be completed coupled with the current affairs. So that what you can correlate. So primary legislation is what? Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And under this, what we have? Flexi Program Project Tiger 1973. Governing body is what? National Tiger Conservation Authority. Total reserves, how much presently we have? 58. New additions we have discussed. Madhagod Tiger Reserve and Ratnapadi Wildlife Sanctuary, Madhya Pradesh. Core area, that means what? Critical tiger habitat. Legal status what? Inviolable, strictly protected. Restrictions. No tourism, no commercial activities, no human settlement in the critical tiger habitat. Critical tiger habitat, when we talk about the tiger reserve itself, for example, we have to discuss the wildlife sanctuary, there we are having the core. Similarly, when we talk about the tiger reserve, we have this core area. What is the name? Because this is your tiger reserve, so obviously this particular core it will be named as your critical tiger habitat. ठीक है ना? Goal undisturbed habitat for tiger breeding and survival. Okay. Buffer area, peripheral zone. Legal status, sustainable use zone, activities regulated, eco development, limited tourism. That means what? Limited tourism is what? Ecotourism we can say. Coexistence with the local communities. Goal, provide habitat supplements and reduce man-animal conflict. This is your core area. Okay. And this is your buffer zone. Okay. So how the tiger reserves are being developed, how it comes into picture. We'll discuss the process. For example, first, a state identifies the area of ecological importance and submits a proposal based on the tiger occupancy and what is the pre-base offer there. This is identified with the state government. After that, what? The National Tiger Conservation Authority evaluates the proposal against the normative standards of the habitat viability. In principle approval, formally acknowledge that the area is to be fitted for tiger reserve itself. Okay, so the area, it has to be identified by the state government, and in principle approval it will be given by National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now, right settlement we have discussed. This right settlement, it won't be in your national park, but it is applicable in your biosphere reserve, because man in the biosphere reserve, obviously it is applicable in your wildlife sanctuary. Do you think it will be applicable towards your tiger reserve? Yes, because the tiger reserve, they are being also delineated into core and the buffer zone itself. Is it okay? So obviously, so here under section 38, the state government must ensure the agriculture and the livelihood rights of the scheduled tribes and forest dwellers are settled. Jahan bhi highest protection is for national park itself. So there, this is not applicable in the park. This forest right 2006, it is applicable, but these rights, it won't be given in the national park. They have to be what? Translocated to some other places. But when you talk about the biosphere reserve, so obviously what biosphere reserve is what? Protected area with interaction of the man itself. So there we will have this. Wildlife sanctuary buffer in the transition zones, we will be having it. Tiger reserve, we have the buffer in the transition zone, and because of that, we will have this. The rights, it will be settled. Okay. Take a state government. Now, demarcation defining the core and the buffer boundaries, it will be done by the state government on the advice of the National Tiger Conservation Authority, because National Tiger Conservation Authority, it will be, वो देखेगा ना, it will see what is the population of the tiger in the core habitat, and based on that, it will define delineate the particular core itself. कि core का range कितना होना चाहिए. Suppose if it is having a very less number, if it is having a greater number, so obviously it will, this particular delineation, it will be done by the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Okay. Now, official declaration of a state gazette notification in area as a tiger reserve, it will be done by the state government. Any increase and decrease in the size of the reserve require formal recommendation from National Tiger Conservation Authority. No boundary change or denotification is valid without the explicit approval from National Board. That means what? National Board of Wildlife. National Board of Wildlife. Okay. Okay. Now these are the different conservation program of the tiger. We have Project Tiger 1973, launched to protect the Bengal tigers through core buffer reserves model and anti-poaching measures. We have National Tiger Conservation Authority established in 2005 to strengthen oversight, funding, and scientific management. We have Tiger Conservation Plans. Apart from that, we have Forest Right Act to recognize the forest dwellers as stakeholders promoting participatory conservations. We have MST program, mobile-based monitoring system for patrolling, ecological data and threat assessment. We have eco-development initiatives, in particularly what? Buffer in the transition zones. We have International Big Cat Alliance. So the International Big Cat Alliance is a multi-country, multi-agency coalition aimed at conserving big cat species. It is launched by India 2023. Headquarter, it is how much? In India. What is the member countries? 96. दिख रहा है आप लोगों को? And take in the PPTs. Clear? Now function is what? Secure the future of the big cat. For example, tiger, lions, leopards, snow leopards, pumas, joggers, and cheetahs. They are your big cats. So all these big cats, they what? They comes under International Big Cat Alliance. Okay. And all of these, they will be under what? Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972, except your pumas and joggers. Okay. Now, a small cats, these are your what? A small cats. So, a status of the small cats in tiger landscape of India. Reported to the Wildlife Institute, National Tiger Conservation Authority provides comprehensive assessment of small cats occupancy status and dynamics. Diverse group of hyper, they are what? Carnivorous with subfamily Felinia found across terrestrial biomes. 10 small cats species are found in India. 10 small cats. So out of it, fishing cat is very much important. Pallas cat, Eurasian lynx, jungle cat, fishing cats, leopard cat, cats, rusty cat. These are the different. Jungle cat is the most widespread small cat species, followed by the rusty one. Difference between the big cats and the small cats. When you talk about the big cats, they can go for roaring, okay, no? But they can produce the sound. But small cat, they cannot. They can mew. They cannot produce the roaring like sound. It's because of your, like tigers, lion possess a flexible hyoid bones enabling them to roar, but they do not have this particular bone, and because of that, they cannot produce this extensive sound. Okay, this out of this cat, this is important. Okay, important. This is a what? Fishing cat. It's in the vulnerable category. Obviously, when it talk about like least concerned and those things, okay, na, nearly threatens. So questions won't be asked. There's a very minimum possibility, but when you talk about the vulnerability, that means what? Population is decreasing, and because of that, the government, they should ensure that the population can increase. The government should put forward what? Conservation programs, and because of this, it becomes important. So fishing cat, it's what? Vulnerable. It is placed in your schedule 1, where they are mostly wetlands and mangroves, West Bengal. Okay, the state animal of West Bengal had partially webbed feet for swimming and fishing. Clear? Okay. So they are found in the wetlands, mangroves, for example, Chilika Lake. So these fishing cats, they are also being found in your Chilika Lake itself, because when you talk about the Chilika Lake, it's what? Brackish water, and there we have the different species of fish. Sometimes this Chilika Lake, it's called what? Ambassador of Chilika Lake. The people, they used to visit those lakes not because of sighting the lake itself, but because of sighting what? Fishing cat. Okay. So write it down somewhere. Ambassador for Chilika Lake. Write it down somewhere. Ambassador of Chilika. It's called Ambassador of Chilika in 2020. Ambassador of Chilika. Okay. And it is mostly found in the Vitarkanika National Park in Odisha itself. Vitarkanika National Park in Odisha. The protected area, only protected area is Vitarkanika National Park. It is your Odisha. Okay, so this is important. Fishing cat. Okay, so in 2020 itself, this particular fishing cat, it has been regarded the ambassador of Chilika itself, because the people, they go for not for sighting this, but for sighting your fishing cat. Apart from that, it has been found in the Sundarban Delta also. It has been found in your Vitarkanika. When you talk about the only protected region for the fishing cat is your Vitarkanika National Park itself. Okay, in this national park, this fishing cat, they are also being observed. Okay, we have discussed about the national park. So there we have discussed that when you talk about wildlife sanctuary, it is for the protection of particular species itself. But when you talk about the national park, all flora, fauna, different endemic species, different species, they are being protected over there. So when you talk about the Vitarkanika National Park, there we have this fishing cat, it is being found. So obviously with this fishing cat, they are also being protected. What is the reason? Because the complete national park, it's a what? Acting as a core zone itself. All sort of flora and fauna, they are being protected. Okay, so write it down somewhere. The only protected reason, only protected area for fishing cat is your Vitarkanika National Park. Vitarkanika National Park. This is the only protected habitat specifically noted for a significant population of fishing cat in Odisha. This is the only protected habitat specifically noted for a significant population of fishing cat in Odisha. The dense mangrove cover and a network of creeks provide the perfect hunting ground. Because in the Vitarkanika National Park, what we have? Mangroves. Mangroves is what? It's a marine ecosystem. There we have discussed that when you talk about like coral reef, they are having the highest biodiversity. Second comes your estuaries or mangroves. So mangroves, it's a what? Ecosystem. Okay. So in that mangroves, what we will be having? Different species of fish. And this is what? A fishing cat. So this is how you have to correlate. ठीक है. Okay, now the others are also there. For example, caracal least concerned, but it is what critically endangered in India. Caracal. Schedule 1, that is found in Rajasthan and Gujarat, highly elusive with long black tough ears, fewer than 50 estimated in the Indian whites. Jungle cat least concerned, it is placed in Schedule 2. Wetlands and the grasslands. Most widely especially small cat in India, primarily do not active during the day. Jungle cat. Okay, आप लोगों ने जंगल कैट देखा भी होगा. ठीक है. Asian golden cat nearly threatened, dense forest northeast region, known as the fire cat, exhibits polymorphism, multiple coats of color like golden, grey and black. Eurasian lynx, least concern schedule in high altitude Ladakh, it has been found in. Pallas cat, nearly thin cold desert, it has been found in also what? Eurasian lynx and Pallas cat, they are found in your high altitude cold desert region. Okay. It's okay, everyone? Abhi tak, is it okay? Any doubt till here? So, integrated CSS, integrated development of wildlife habitat scheme, Gharial and slot bear. Gharial and slot bear were recommended for inclusion under the species recovery program of centrally sponsored scheme. For example, Gharial, you must be knowing that it is under your species recovery program, and because of that, its number is what? Increasing. Okay. So it's time for inclusion of your slot bear. About CSS IDWH, it is under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. That means what? All the funds it will be coming from the central side for the purpose of what? Recovery of this species. Conducting wildlife protection and conservation activities, financial assistance provided to state UT government for supporting protected national park, wildlife sanctuaries, conservation reserves and the community reserves. Protection of wildlife outside the protected areas. Recovery program for the saving critically endangered species. And habitat, so far 22 species including snow leopard, Asiatic lion, great Indian bustards, Gangetic river dolphins are included under it. Those who are critically endangered. Now if it is critically endangered, what? We have to go for the recovery programs. Okay. Key component, development of wildlife habitat, Project Tiger, Project Elephants. So this is your slot bear. Unique characteristics, diet is what? Myrmecophagus, it specializes in termites and hibernation, does not hibernate unlike other bears. So it's what? Slot bear, it do not go for the hibernation. So this particular term, it can be, suppose obviously, if UPSC will ask the question, this hibernation term, it can be utilized, because when we talk about the bear, we are quite familiar of its hibernation properties. Behavior, agile, mostly nocturnal and highly aggressive habitat, forest and the grasslands, native to India, Nepal and Sri Lanka. Now, Deroji slot bear sanctuary, it is in what? Karnataka is the first dedicated sanctuary in Asia for this particular bear. Okay. We have discussed about what? Gharial. So we will see species of crocodiles. Is it visible in you? Just take it in notes. Is it visible? Okay. So here you can see there are 3 species of crocodilians. For example, we have saltwater, mugger and gharial. Okay. Saltwater crocodile, where it will be your saltwater estuarine. It is the largest of all living reptiles. It is found throughout the east coast of the India, Bhitarkanika, Mongoose and Sundarban national parks. Males are much larger than the females, weighing up to how much? Okay, 1000 kgs. Habitat, they habitat coastal brackish mangrove swamps in the river deltas. Least concern. It is what? Least concern. ये कहाँ पाया जाता है maximum? Bhitarkanika National Park. In the Bhitarkanika National Parks, what we have? Just we have discussed correlate Bhitarkanika National Park. It's there. What we are getting? Fishing cat. Why fishing cat? Because we have mangroves. When you talk about the mangroves, it's a what? Mangroves is what? They are ecotones. Okay, and they are famous for your what? They are the halotypic type of plant. That means what? They are salt tolerant. And this is what? Okay, saltwater crocodile. So this is how we have to correlate. Okay. Okay. Then we have what? Magar. Magar, Indian crocodile is found throughout the India. Throughout India subcontinent. The magar is mainly a freshwater species. This is what? Freshwater. This is what? Saltwater. Okay. And found in lakes, rivers, and marshes. They are the keystone species of the habitat, and it is what? Vulnerable. And we are talking about the recovery program for your gharial. So recovery program is for your gharial. That means gharial, it will be your critically endangered. We have discussed we'll take this recovery program when the species into the critically endangered status. So gharial, the fish-eating crocodile, is a native to the Indian subcontinent. A small released populations are present and increasing in the river of the national Chambal sanctuary. It is famous for Chambal river. It is famous for your gharial. ठीक है ना? Qatar Niagat Wildlife Sanctuary, Son River Sanctuary, and the rainforest theme of the Mahanadi Satkosi Gorge Sanctuary, Odisha. They are easily distinguishable due to long snouts, and they are what? Critically endangered. So याद रखिएगा, we have taken this recovery initiative for gharial. Okay, we have Vitarkanika National Program, National Park, Odisha. Saltwater crocodile population is increased from 95 to over 1800. This is for the recovery initiative success. Success. So Vitarkanika National Park, what we will have? Salt water. And earlier you can see that in 1971, what is the number? 78. But presently, how much we have? 1800. Gharial recovery led by the initiative like Gandak Gharial recovery project number is increased significantly. Clear? Why vultures are dying? What is the reason? Ayan, what is the reason? Why there is a continuously decrease in the number of vultures in India? Little bit louder. Which painkiller? Diclofenac. Is it now? Because when you talk about the cattles, in the cattles what we give? Diclofenac. So what? Diclofenac we give for the so that the pain reduces. But when you talk about the pain, this painkiller, what? It is fat soluble in nature. It is what? Fat soluble in nature, and because of that, the metabolites of this particular medicine, it is being entrapped into the fats. When it dies, when the cattle dies, the carcasses, they are being eaten by these vultures. So when these vultures, they will eat it, the metabolites of this particular diclofenac, जो होता है, it is not being digested by this vultures, and because of that, their renal failure, kidney failure, the population is what? Decreasing, and इसलिए जो है diclofenac, it is being banned, but still, ठीक है ना? ठीक है यार? Vinay, is it okay? Where are you? Are you in the class now? ठीक है ना? The first pan-India assessment and monitoring of vultures 2023 to 25 conducted by the Wildlife Institute of India revealed a critical situation with a 70% decline in the historic nesting sites. Key findings: targeted species is your critically endangered species. We have target species what? इसका हम लोगों ने देखने की कोशिश किया था. Critically endangered, we have white rump Indian vultures, slender-billed vulture, and red-headed vultures. They are the 4 different categories of vultures. Regional concentration: 63% of the Indian non-vulture nests are located in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Species status: the slender-billed vulture showed a severe decline in almost all the historic sites. So this seems to be very much important. Why? Because when we have carried out this first India assessment for the purpose of monitoring, we have seen that this particular species of vulture, slender-billed vulture, has shown what? Drastically decline. ठीक है? Okay. Now major threat is what? Toxic veterinary drugs, use of diclofenac. This is the major one, use of diclofenac. It is what? It's a painkiller. Okay, and its metabolites means what? When this salt, it will what? Break into the individual salts, that's metabolites. It will be what? The diclofenac, that means what? It is fat soluble. It is what? Directly you can write fat soluble, and because of this, when animal dies, cattle dies, its carcasses, okay, it will be eaten by your and vultures. And vultures jo hoga, when you talk about the vultures, what? Because of the kidney failure, or we say it renal failure, they will what? Die. And this is how the population is continuously decreasing. And apart from diclofenac, we have other sort of painkillers also, like aceclofenac, ketoprofen causes kidney failures in vultures. They are given to what? They are the veterinary drugs. They are what? Veterinary drugs. They are given to animals. And when the animals die, the carcasses, because when you talk about the vultures, they are known as what? As scavengers. Okay? Habitat loss, deforestation, and reduced nesting ability. This is also one of the factors. Food scarcity, decline in the carcass availability due to the modern sanitation and disposal method. This is also the reason. Now the animals, they are being what? They are not being disposed. They are not being disposed. Rather what? Unka bhi jo hai, we go for what? Burying them. And this is the reason why this number of the numbers is continuously declining. Take it. Now conservation measures. What are the different conservation? Now we have vulture conservation breeding centers. The Bombay National History Society and Haryana Forest Department manage 4 key breeding centers in. First is your Pinjore, Haryana, Raja Bhakt Khawa, West Bengal, Rani in Assam, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh to breed and release vulture. That means what? It's a captive breeding. They will breed it, and after that, when they will become little bit younger, they will release into their environment. Vulture safe zones. The vulture safe zones program is active in the 8 locations, including Uttar Pradesh, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, aiming to ensure 100-kilometer radius free from toxic drugs. That means what? In those particular 100-kilometer regions, okay, the drugs, the veterinary and the animals over there, they should not give this, they should not be given with this particular painful drugs, painkiller drugs like diclofenac. Okay, that means for these vulture zones, they are free from diclofenac. Okay. So the different species of vulture we have discussed, that these vultures we have in this particular Pan India assessment, what we have seen, सबसे ज़्यादा किसका declination हुआ है? Slender bill. We have this 4 white trump, Indian slender bill and red-headed, and they belong to your critically endangered region. Critically endangered. We have Egyptian vulture, it's an endangered. We have Himalayan griffon vulture, they are near threatened, and we have this griffon vulture, this is threatened. Okay. These are not so much important. We'll see. Wild yak, the first ever chromosome level genome of Indian domestic yak, a descent of wild yak, was assembled by the specialist from 4 ICR institutions. That means what? For the first time we have carried out the process of what? Genome sequencing. For this particular we have discussed genome sequencing. And after that what? It is being assembled by the specialist from 4 ICR institutions about wild yak. Habitat where wild yak first, and because of that कहाँ पे देखने को मिलेगा? Okay ना? So alpine tundra regions, cold regions, grassland and the cold desert regions of the northern Tibetan plateau with mountains areas ranging from 400 to 6,000 elevations. Regional occurrence native to China, India, and regionally extinct from Bhutan. Key characteristics move seasonally, descending into the lower valleys in the winter. Because in what will happen to the winter के समय में क्या होगा? What will happen? The temperature will what drop, and because of that it will be moving to the valley region. Feeds mostly in the grasses and sages with some forbs. Yaks are gregarious, often aggregating into groups, 100 individuals. Although the smaller groups 10 to 20 also common. They will always move in a group. Major threats: poaching, including commercial poaching from meat, interbreeding between domestic and wild yaks. Okay. Now, when you talk about the Indian yak, they are known as sheep of the Himalayas. Supports high altitude communities with meat, milk, and transport. Habitat found across Himalayan region, Tibetan plateau, Pamir mountains, Tajikistan, and up to Mongolian Siberia. Characteristics have large lungs and heart rate than cattle. They are what? Herbivorous. Now, Tamil Nadu endangered species conservation. So Tamil Nadu, what it has sanctioned 1 crore for the conservation of found endangered species. This was what lion-tailed mac. Okay, this is what Madras hedgehog. This is a striped hyena, and this is what hummed-headed masir. Okay, this is what and the critically endangered. This is what critically endangered one. Okay. So this is for your notes. You can see. For example, when you talk about like lion-tailed mac, it's a what endangered. Site listing, it is what appendix 1. That means what do you think? International trade is being permitted? International trade is not being permitted. It is being prohibited. High. What is the protection of wildlife protection act? Schedule 1. That means what we have discussed. Schedule 1 it is having the highest protection. Endemic region where it is being Western Ghat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala. Primary threat habitat fragmentations. Okay. They what arboreal survives in the fragmented rainforest patches. Next we have Madras hedgehog. Least concern. So if it is least concern, what in the site it is not listed. Appendix what 2. Little bit lesser protection from the appendix 1. Schedule 1. Southern India. Illegal pet trade hunting. Known for thorny rat. Nocturnal semi-arid regions. We have striped hyena. Near threatened. It is your appendix 3, and this is your appendix 1. India and the central. Prosecution, poisoning, loss of carrions, road kills. Hummed-headed masir fish. This is important. Critically, this is what? Critically endangered. Write it down. This is important. Hummed-headed masir fish. Okay. So, critically endangered in the site it is not listed. Obviously, if it is critically endangered, it will be under Schedule 1 highest protection. Western Ghats, Kaveri Basin. They are critically endangered. What is the reason? Because of their dams, destructive fishings, invasive species called tiger of the Kaveri for its fighting speed as game fish. Tiger of Kaveri itself. Okay. Just a moment. Please revise it once. Carry out the revision process. We'll start. Okay, solve few questions. Just listen to me. For example, which of the following best describes the ecological role of the fishing cat as an umbrella species? That means what? We have to check the statement how this particular fishing cat, it is acting as a what? Umbrella species. We have discussed with the umbrella species. Okay. First statement, it is a migratory species that link terrestrial and marine ecosystem. Second, by protecting its large wetlands habitat, a wide range of other biodiversity from microbes to mollusks is indirectly conserved. This statement, because we discussed the fishing cat. Fishing cat is famous for fishing. Obviously, when you talk about the wetlands, when you talk about the mangroves, there we have the different species of fishes. Their population, it has to be controlled. Otherwise, what will happen? If the population over exceeds the other species, it will get decreased. And because of that, this fishing cat, it is acting as a what? It is for the purpose of what? Conserving the biodiversity. So that means what? Here in this particular picture, the fishing cat, it is acting as a what? Umbrella species. Okay, no? Now, one more question. I was actually searching for the question. Just a moment. Okay. Now, with reference to the spatially explicit capture recapture, this is a particular technique. This is a what? Technique, and this particular technique, it is being used for the purpose of what? It is being used for the purpose of capturing the number of fishing cat in Vitarkanika National Park. Okay, this is the technique. Are you getting a point? Now, sometimes you have to solve the question. Are you getting a point? So, what is the statement with reference to the spatially explicit capture recapture method used in the fishing cat survey? Consider the following statement. It relies primarily on the analysis of environmental DNA and water sample. First statement. Second, it uses the unique code patterns, spot and strips of individuals captured on camera traps to estimate population density. That means what? It will be responsible for the purpose of directly capturing it. Third is what? It is considered more scientifically robust than the simple pug mark analysis. For example, we have carried out the process of what? Tiger and okay, we have used the pug mark analysis, but here we are using what? Direct this thing. So those 2 and 3 statements, they are correct. Okay. Now, Ganga river dolphin. This is what? Dolphin. So can only live in fresh water and is what? And is blind. Has a silt similar to the blowhole on the top of its island, which acts as nostril, popularly referred as what? Susu. Due to the sound it produces when breathing, symbols of the ecological health of a major river system. That means what? It is also acting as a what? Indicator species. Okay. Threats: direct killing, habitat fragmentation, and dams and barrages, and indiscriminate fishing. For example, Bihar. If you go to Bihar or Uttar Pradesh region, sometimes, okay, in the river itself, Ganga river, you will get it. So when it is being captured by the villages over there, it should be what? It should be what they should call, but what they will eat it. Okay, na? And okay. Now, habitat and distributions where they are found. Preferred environment, what we have discussed: fresh water, deep water, particularly in and around river confluences, Addis, South meanders where prey is abundant. Geographical ranges found in the 7 Indian states: Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. Ganga basin, Upper Ganga, UP, Chambal, MP, Ghagra, Gandak, Son, Kosi, Bihar. Okay. Brahmaputra basin from Sadia, Arunachal Pradesh to Bangladesh, Dhubri, including the Tulsi river also. Bikramsila, Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary, it's in your Bihar. Okay, location: a 50 to 60 kilometer stretch of the Ganga river from Sultanganj to Kahalgaon in the Bhagalpur district of. So this is what? Bikramsila Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary. It's in your Bihar itself. Okay. Indus River dolphin, it's called your Bhulan. It's called your Bhulan. So Indus River dolphin is a rare freshwater species and a static aquatic animal of Punjab. Blindness: functionally blind, relies entirely on echolocation to navigate. That means it produces sound, and that sound, if it comes, that means what? There is some obstacle, it will move. If it is not being coming, it will move forward. So it uses the principle of echolocation. We have discussed even when you talk about the bat, it's a nocturnal animal. It also uses the principle of what? Echolocation. In the night, if you move, it will produce some of the sounds. Okay, but that sound, this frequency, but the sound that is being produced, it will strike, and if it comes back, that means so there is an obstacle, so it will what change its orientation. Okay. Ecosystem habitat India, a tiny isolated population 30 exists in the bees and river. Pakistan primarily found in the main Indus River. Current conservation status listed endangered. Okay. Now remember one thing. This earlier, this Gangetic dolphins and Indus dolphin, they are being considered as what? Same species itself. They are being what? Same species, but they are somewhat genetically dissimilar. But after carrying out a lot of research, it has been found that Indus and Ganga, they what? Both are different species. So Indus and Ganga river dolphins are separate species. A new study revealed. Okay. This I have taken it from the dolphins.com itself. Now what? Sacred groups. What is sacred groups? It's also what? What is sacred groups? For example, if you go to the village, for example, if in Maharashtra particularly, if you Meghalaya, if you go to the village, something of itself. So in the village, at the end of the village itself, you will see some mini forest-like area, and this particular mini forest-like area, different sort of activities like grazing and all sort of activities, they are being what? Prohibited. Even what? Agriculture is permitted up to certain limit. Why? Because they particular villagers, they believe that their ancestral deities, Bhagwan, they reside over there. So ultimately what? Considering this area, it is being protected by the villagers itself. So this is what? Sacred groups. So sacred groups are community protected. Okay. Bhagwan ke naam pe sab protected. Sacred groups are community protected. Nature workshopping forest patches of high biodiversity, cultural value, often harboring rare species also, protected by the local taboos and belief the area function is in situ biodiversity conservation. They are legally recognized under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Legally recognized a protected area. Protected area as a community reserve, and the Forest Right Act as the community forest resources. The Forest Right Act, it is applicable in this sacred groups also. Key areas: Western Ghats, Meghalaya, Maharashtra and Rajasthan. Significance: they are the remnants of the native vegetations protected by the local community due to religious belief. They act as a water sanctuaries, soil erosions, preventers and climate stability. You must be knowing about the aquifers. Aquifers are what? They are the water body. They are responsible for the purpose of recharging groundwater. So there in this particular sacred groups also lots of ponds are there, and they are acting as a what? Aquifers. They are acting as a what? Aquifers also. They are the, okay. Biodiversity role: they shelter the threatened species of plant, birds and animals. Legal protection. So under the Wildlife Protection Act Amendment Act 2002, they can be designated community reserves. The National Forest Policy 1988 also support the community-based conservation effort, and apart from that, we have discussed that it also what comes under your Forest Right Act 2006 itself. Okay. So these are the names of the sacred groups. For example, in Assam, it is called Than. In Chhattisgarh, it is called Matagudi, Mahakasthan, Matagudi, Devgudi or Sarna. Himachal Pradesh, we call what? Devvan. Jharkhand, Sarna. Karnataka, Devara Kadu. Kerala, Kavu. Maharashtra, we call is what? Devgudi. Manipur, Umang Rai. Okay. These are the names. Now, highest concentration, the maximum number of sacred groups, it is being found in the Maharashtra region. It's found in the Maharashtra region. Okay. Largest numbers are found in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, while the significant older groups exist in Meghalaya, Rajasthan and Uttarakhand. Supreme Court 2025 directed mapping of all the sacred groups via satellite and ground truthing based on their cultural and ecological significance. Okay. That means what now? This particular sacred groups, it will be monitored using what? GIS. Concerns regarding encroachment, urbanization and invasive species, lantana camera. This is what? Invasive species. So here these are what? These are the number of your sacred groups. So what I have said, the maximum it is being located in your Maharashtra. How much? 2837. Okay. Clear? Now we are going to discuss about the invasive species. So we'll take the break. Is it? Okay. Thank you.